Fun fact, Playboy Magazine was incredibly popular with the blind community. While Playboy is often viewed as an indecent, morally wrong magazine, it's not the whole truth. Playboy Magazine featured high-quality journalism, well-written short stories, and culturally important interviews. And for many years, Playboy had a White House correspondent that attended all of the press briefings. Some of the authors who contributed short stories or articles to Playboy over its 67-year publication history included Ernest Hemingway, Margaret Atwood, Gay Talese, Arthur C. Clarke, Joyce Carol Oates, Hunter S. Thompson, Norman Mailer, and Truman Capote. And Playboy Magazine featured culturally important interviews with people like Martin Luther King Jr., Jimmy Carter, Muhammad Ali, Elton John, Salvador Dali, Maya Angelou, Michael Jordan, Malcolm X, Steve Jobs, Fidel Castro, Robin Williams, John Lennon, and Bernie Sanders. There was a lot of truth in the saying, "I read it for the articles," as Playboy was a meaningful source of high-quality journalism. In 1931, the Library of Congress started a program to financially support the translation of popular magazines into Braille, so that the blind community would have something to read and could stay up to date on current events. Some of the titles that received taxpayer funding to support their translation into Braille included Good Housekeeping, Boy's Life, National Geographic, and a bunch of other magazines. In the beginning of the 1970s, Playboy was added to the list of magazines that received funding to be translated into Braille, and became the 6th most popular magazine in the Library of Congress's Braille magazine catalog. All of the magazine's normal content, except for the cartoons, photographs, and advertisements, were translated into the Braille version. But in 1981, Senator Mac Mattingly from Georgia found out Playboy magazine was receiving taxpayer funding to be translated into Braille for the blind community to enjoy, and began a campaign to remove Playboy from the list of magazines to be translated, stating the magazine promoted wanton and illicit sex, and since the centerfold changed in every issue, the magazine supported the notion of frequent changes in sexual partners, which was definitive of promiscuity. This was an interesting position to take, since the Braille version of Playboy featured no images, because it was for the blind community. On July 18, 1985, a vote was passed in the House of Representatives to remove Playboy's Braille funding. This was a huge loss for the blind community, and a number of blind advocacy groups filed a lawsuit in federal court asking the judge to overturn the decision and reinstate Playboy's Braille translation funding, calling it a violation of the First Amendment. The lawsuit pointed out that Playboy had been in print for 31 years without ever once being found to be obscene or indecent in state or federal court. In August of 1986, federal district court judge Thomas Hogan agreed with the blind advocacy groups, declaring that Congress had violated the First Amendment in denying Playboy's Braille translation funding, and called the move a backdoor method of censorship. Playboy's Braille editions resumed publication in January of 1987, and Judge Hogan also decreed that all of the 1986 issues of Playboy that had been ignored by the Library of Congress must also be translated into Braille and added to the library's Braille magazine catalog. Playboy's Braille translation continued until the magazine discontinued publication in 2020. Interestingly, in 1992, newspaper columnist Roger Simons discovered that several members of Congress were fond of checking out one book in particular from the Library of Congress, Sex, a book which contained a collection of erotic photos featuring Madonna.